Hey, what's up YouTube? Hey, this is going to be a different type of video. We're only going to have the audio only for this video due to the fact that we had some issues with trying to edit the video. We couldn't fix it, and so this is going to be an audio only podcast. But I hope that you enjoy it. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to engage with you guys in the comments. Enjoy.
Smeared faces, Lord, they hate to hear your message. Though I'm geared with your protection, your armor that I've been blessed with, no stressing. When I'm trying to teach them all your lessons, they looking at me crazy like I got a weird perspective. Smeared faces, Lord, they hate to hear your message. Though I'm geared with your protection, your armor that I've been blessed with, no stressing. When I'm trying to teach them all your lessons, they looking at me crazy like I got a weird perspective.
Many have endeavored to tell the story of Darry Cooks. That's how the Gospel of Luke began. Many most excellent Theophilus. Now, we're back with part 2 of our testimony breakdown. Just looking at how to tell a testimony, what makes a good testimony. But rather than just talk about it, we want to be about it. So one of the best tellers of testimonies that I know is Darry Cooks, my co-host.
One of the best?
On the real.
Man.
You were able to tell. Well, I'll let you tell it. So I just wanted to ask Darry straight up, because we have people who are listening right now who don't know how to tell a testimony. They're interested in doing it, and we just want to ask Darry to share his testimony of how he came to faith in Jesus. And then I'm going to be asking questions along the way that I think people who want to learn how to tell a testimony would ask. And so we're going to take it from that point of view. So, Darry, you have the floor. Break it down.
Well, first, you want me to start like from young life up until I was saved?
However much context you think is needed to give the fullest picture.
Okay. And then, thank you for the best title, one of the best. I don't know if I'm one of the best, but I appreciate that, bro.
That's a fly right there.
So yeah, it's a fly, or some.
That was some dust. That wasn't a fly.
But anyway, yeah, man. So my name is Darry.
Lies.
Darry Cooks, born of Darry Cooks Sr., birthed by Celia Smith. It was my mom, son of. But yeah, no, I was born in Chicago, Illinois. Grew up in Logan Square. Single parent household. My mom and dad got divorced when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So I don't remember much of that time. I do have some videos on VHS. Some of y'all don't know what VHS is. It's dead technology. But anyway, so on VHS is how I can recap some of those memories from my childhood. But yeah, my mom had us in church early. Like, since I can remember, we've always been in church. And so going to church consistently, my mom was one of those moms that she was involved in everything. From the choir to the usher board. She taught Sunday school. She was a prayer warrior. So she was, they had, I could even remember the schedule of the church, that my childhood church. It was Tuesday night prayer. It was Wednesday night Bible study. It was Thursday night choir rehearsal. It was Friday night revival. At least like once a month, they had like a Friday revival service, and then Sunday service. So I was at church about 5 days out the week. So I couldn't stand church growing up. I couldn't stand it. I would go there and I would just go to sleep, and then I would get one of them old school church pinches on the side, like wake up. And so, yeah, my mom, she was devout Christian, raised us up. We had to learn scripture in the household. So memorizing scripture, that was more important than our homework. So you ain't know them scriptures, you ain't going outside, you ain't playing no game. She was very, very serious about the Bible and us learning it. So, yeah, man, grew up. My mom got remarried when I was about 12, 13 years old. And my stepdad was he was very much like, hey, you gotta let him be a boy. And so I'm the youngest. I didn't say this. I'm the youngest of two. My sister was 6 years older than me. So yeah, I was the baby. My stepdad came along. He was like, hey, you gotta let him be a boy. And then that was probably the worst thing that my mom could have did for me.
Why you start smiling when you said that?
Because I was just thinking through stuff. Yeah, it probably was the worst thing that my mom could have did was extended. I wouldn't even say extend the leash. She kind of took the leash off, and I was all the stuff that I was able to kind of see and hear. Now I can go and be part of, and so even with Christian values and a foundation in the household, we still have a thirst like to sin, like this flesh. There's something appealing about sin that draws us to it, and so I seen it. I seen it from my older sister. Like I said, she was 6 years older than me, so there were certain rules that things that she was allowed to do that I wasn't allowed to do, because she had already been exposed to certain things. And my mom was like, I ain't gonna let you be exposed to that at all. So I couldn't listen to secular music. There were certain movies that I couldn't watch. My mom would definitely be like, if it's a kissing scene, they ain't even showing nothing, but they just smooch it, close your eyes. So we couldn't say but, we couldn't say lie. We had to say he's telling a story or he's fibbing. I had to say behind. And now that I'm older, I look back on those things and I was just like, these things in the Bible, lie, but, jawbone of an ass, is all those things are in the Bible. The word damn is in the Bible. I was like, Mom, what you telling me not to say stuff, but you want me to read the scriptures and I'm gonna read it. So anyway,
you got smacked for that.
Wow. So yeah, remarried, and then man, I was exposed to a whole lot of things. And then we moved to Austin, and it was just like nonstop fighting. I was a different kid because I grew up around mainly Hispanics, Latinos, and so the way that I spoke, the way that I dressed, the things that I was interested in.
I just pictured Darry like with a lowrider bicycle.
No, I actually did have a lowrider. It got stolen. But BMX bikes was in style when I was a kid. This was when they first started popping. So everything was BMX. We got the BMX bikes with GT dynos, mongooses, all those things.
Oh, mongooses.
The gang that was in my neighborhood would go to the suburbs and steal them and then bring them back to our neighborhood and then sell them to us for the low. So my first BMX bike I bought from the gang, and then my sister was like, "You better get that bike back," because it was black and blue, and so it was Maniac Land Disciples in my neighborhood, and so it was just like, hey, our school banned black and blue. You couldn't wear them together, just because all the gang stuff that was going on over there. So you couldn't wear black and blue. You couldn't wear gold and black. You couldn't wear hats. Even if your hat wasn't cocked to the side, you couldn't wear hats. None of those things. They was like, anything that could represent or be represented by a gang, you ain't doing it in this school. So couldn't do that. And then going back a little bit, because I'm kind of just firing off, I went to a Lutheran school at 5th grade. And that school was terrible. Not terrible because it was a Lutheran school. It was terrible because of the kids. I was fighting in that joint all the time. It was a bunch of bad kids in that school. Anyway, went to Lutheran school, didn't learn nothing.
Real quick, what were most of the fights about?
Just kid stuff. It wasn't really like no gang stuff like that. It was just kids being kids. So I was small when I was younger, so a lot of people tried to bully me a lot, which is why I had so much aggression. And yeah, in 7th grade my jaw was broken, and so 8th grade I missed most of my 7th grade year. 8th grade my mom didn't let me do nothing, and then when I went to high school I just had this really big chip on my shoulder. I was just angry, and 'cause I felt like time in a part of my life was stolen from me, and so I was like, I'm never going to allow that to happen to me again. So if I felt threatened, then I would just attack you. And so yeah, Yeah, we moved to Austin. That was the beginning of me fighting a lot. Just because I was different, I was small, and man, Austin is just a 15-minute drive from Logan Square, but it's like a whole different culture. It's predominantly black. And yeah, the kids, the lingo, everything was different. And so I grew up. We still was going to church at that time, but she let me now listen to secular music. I was hearing it on my dad's side anyway. So my dad picked me up. My dad was a big DMX, Tupac, Master P, all those guys. So I was hearing those music, and he wasn't playing the clean version. He was playing straight up cursing and everything. So I'm in the car. So I'm like, you know. So yeah, I had, you know, my mom's side, church, very religious, even like legalistic, I would say. And then my dad's side was just like free. I could do whatever I wanted to do on my dad's side. So only thing we had like curfew. If we was outside and we was just on that block, we'd be outside till 1, 2 in the morning. It was just freedom over there. So I definitely seen and experienced a lot of things and was exposed to a lot of things on my dad's side. Yeah, on my dad's side, my dad had the hot box. You know, with the hot box cable.
Oh yeah,
this is black cable boxes, and you get to like the 90s, and then it's not kid or family friendly no more. It was straight X-rated.
They had the D-scrambler on it. So
yeah, whatever that thing was called, but you had all the channels, and part of the package was adult channel. So it was my first. I was exposed to like porn, but it was on magazines on my mom's side when I was in Logan Square. My dad's side exposed me to the visual. It was like, oh, this is what this is. This is what this actually looks like. So, yeah, my first sexual experience, I was 11. So grew up with a thirst for that. I won't say I was like super violent. I just didn't like bullies because I was bullied. And so I wanted to fight all the bullies. My stepdad, he was a 3rd-degree black belt. He taught me how to fight. I took up boxing. So I was learning how to fight. So I had some confidence. So when I got to high school, 8th grade in high school, I was just like on whoever want to fight, let's fight. It's not like it is now where people pulling out guns. People was actually fighting back then. So all that anger and then being exposed to sex and porn and all those things, that was my appetite. It was violence and sex. And so fast forward, my mom gets divorced again, and now she meets her now current husband, and we moved to the suburbs, Wilmette, and I hated it. I did not want to move to the suburbs. I was in my junior year of high school, and I'm like, you gonna move me out here? You gonna need to buy me a car. And she didn't want to buy me a car, and so she didn't say no. She just told me I had to wait. But I'm like, I need it now. And so
Wilmette is like near Evanston, right?
Yeah, it's further north.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, Evanston, Skokie, Wilmette, all those W cities over that way. So Ferris Bueller's Big Day Off, that movie, that high school, that's my home school, New Trier. My mom wanted me to go there, but I was just like, I'm a junior already, about to go into my senior year. I ain't transferring because they got a different credit system, and that would have put me back like a year and a half because I would have had to make up a whole bunch of credits because CPS is 1 credit. Out there it was 3 credits. So I was just like, nah. And the fact that I did a whole bunch of work, summer school, night school, to get to the place I was just like, I'm not about to go back. So yeah. Anyway, moved to Wilmette. Didn't have a good relationship with my stepdad. my mom's new husband, and I had now a girlfriend who's now my current wife. Shout outs to my wife, Tuatha. Met her my sophomore year of high school, and so we pretty much free to do like whatever we wanted. My sister, her sister, just kind of gave us liberties that we shouldn't have had at 16, 17 years old. So, yeah, very much had those freedoms. My mom was going through her thing in her life, where she's now in a new relationship. She's married, and she's just trying to figure it out and kind of just leaving me to kind of fend for myself, so to speak. Not in like a bad way, or like a neglect way, but she's still trying to figure out, like, she don't know how to raise a man. And so I was already used to doing certain things. I was very independent, like the way that I got money, I used to sell CDs, sell candy, all those type of things. So I was very independent, knew how to move around the city on my own, all those type of things. But and so yeah, she would just be like, be home by your curfew. So my curfew was, when we were in the city, it was like 10 o'clock. It was always 10 o'clock, even when we moved to Wilmette, but I had to catch the last bus. The last bus to get me home in Wilmette was at 8:30. And I was like, man, fam, I got to get home early. So didn't want to do that. So that's where the whole car situation happened, and big blow up from that. My dad wound up getting me a car. And my biological dad, he got me a car, and it was a little hoopty, but it was mine. It was a 1991 Chevy Lumina, blue. Front grill was missing. Needed an oil change. I had an oil leak. My mom wasn't having it. She was like, that car's not staying here. I didn't say you can get a car. You live with me. You got to follow my rules. She was like, so I was like, okay. So I told her I gave the car back to my dad. Really, I kept it. I just parked it somewhere else. And then she found out about it. I think she's seen it parked somewhere, and it was you know the car when you see it. So it's not like, no, that's somebody else's car. Plus we live in Wilmette, so all the cars out there nice. So you got this old blue hoopty, it stands out. So she finds out that I still have the car. I've been lying to her all this time, and she's like, you want to listen to your dad? You can go live with him. Now my dad lives in Milwaukee. I ain't going to live in Milwaukee, absolutely not. So I'm like, well, she was like, well, you ain't staying. She had already had my stuff like packed. So I leave. I go live with my best friend at the time. So I'm pretty much bouncing between his house and my sister's house during this time. And this is my senior year of high school. So I'm between my best friend and my sister's house, back and forth. And then, my sister passed away. Surprisingly, it was a surprise to all of us, the way that she passed away and all the things that happened. So my mom, I go back home to stay with my mom. Really quick, the thing about my mom I just want to share is that my mom has always been like a prayer warrior. She's always had this divine connection with her kids. So anytime any of us was going through something, like, she knew about it spiritually. And so when I was out there doing my thing, like, my mom found out I never did dirt with people. I always did my stuff by myself. I don't want nobody snitching on me. I don't want nobody knowing what I'm doing. So I always did all my dirt by myself. And my mom, one day she comes to my sister's house. I'm just watching TV. She walks in, like, she looks me up and down. I got my ears pierced now, which was a no-no for my mom. She used to take, like, friends that come over, if you're a male and you got your ears pierced, she's like, you can't wear those in my house. Take those out. So that type of legalistic my mom was. So she looks me up and down. She's like, so how was it? I'm like, how was what? And she's like, you know what I'm talking about. And then she knew that I had got locked up. I spent like 9 hours in jail. I'm like, how the heck does she know this? Because I didn't get bonded out by nobody. I got an I-bond. Nobody knew that I got locked up. Like I said, I did all my dirt by myself. But God has always given my mom these divine visions, and she knew. My sister got hit by a car one time. I was younger. My mom was in pain for hours, random pain. to the point where she could barely walk, and she ain't know what was going on. My sister was out just hanging out with her friends, and then she got hit. But before, my mom felt all the pain before my sister got hit by the car. And then when she got the phone call, the moment she answered the phone, the pain went away. They told her that my sister got hit by a car, and it was a crazy thing. The dude hit her and then was going to try to keep going, but like some random dude that nobody knows who it was stopped the car, and they couldn't find that guy. And this is Logan Square at a time where everybody knows everybody. You not walking down the street without us knowing that you live in this neighborhood. We might not know your name, but we know that you live around here. It was one of those type of neighborhoods, one of those type of communities. And so, yeah, my mom always had those things. I'll tell you guys another quick story about my mom. We were at church. This is me as an adult, as a saved male. And so the first church that I went to, my mom comes. I invite my friend. He's there with his girlfriend at the time. And we're doing praise and worship. My mom is sitting next to my friend's girlfriend. And for whatever reason, my mom, when she starts to pray, her hand shakes. Like when she prays in the spirit, her hand shakes. I know some of y'all watching probably like, oh my God, super spiritual, hyper, whatever. But yeah, anyway.
Hey, don't argue with the results.
Yeah, so she's praying, and this is how I know Adam, because this is the church that we were at together when I first got saved. My mom is praying, and then she touches the young lady's stomach. Now, my mom does not know this young lady. This is her first time meeting her. We ain't had dinner or nothing. We ain't on them levels of where you could just be touching people and praying for them. My mom prays for her, and she says, make sure you take care of that baby. And the girl breaks down. My friend is looking like, what the heck? What baby she talking about? Who got a baby? So now everybody's like, so yeah, it's one of them type of scenes like, oh snap, how you ain't tell me you was pregnant? And then, but the girl didn't say anything to my friend because she had an abortion scheduled that Monday. And so she breaks down. Long story short, things came out, and then she wound up keeping the baby, but because she had an abortion scheduled. But it be things like that. It's one of the reasons why, even in all my rebellion, I could never deny Jesus. I could never deny that God exists, because I've seen way too many things, miracles, whatever you want to call them. I've seen them. So even in my rebellion, I could not fully deny that God wasn't real. Anyway, going back, what was I at? Going back to,
you were still in high school.
Yeah, senior year. So my sister passes away. I go back home to stay with my mom, and then they get up, they leave, they move to Ohio. I get my own apartment in Mount Prospect, and then so I'm here, they're there, going through life. I just had my first kid. Me and Tawata are on rocky terms. I drop out of college. Just a whole bunch of different things. So, things wasn't going right for me here. I lost my little bootleg job at Target. And so, life was just all over the place. And so I go to Ohio just to get away. Wind up staying there. Tawata comes, her and Maya come and live with us out there. We stay out there for about a year and a half. Things go left out there, not with me and her, but no job. I lose my job at Walmart. Couldn't find a job for anything to save my life for 3 months. And I'm going out like every day. And I'm like, man, what the heck? My best friend at the time, where he comes into my story is, he's always been like religious. So he grew up like Seventh-day Adventist. He's always been religious. Hey, you need to go to church. He distanced himself from me because I was wilding. And he was like, he ain't gonna had no parts of that type of lifestyle. So he starts going to this church called Faith World. And this is while I'm still in Ohio. I'm looking for a job. So I tell Tawata, like, man, I'm gonna apply to this job in Chicago. If they call me and I get the job, then we're moving back. And so I do that. I come down here for the interview. That weekend, I stay at his house. He's in a play at the church called Eternity. I believe that's the name of the play. His role is Sammy. And so I spend the weekend at his house. He's going over his lines. He's like, man, you coming to church with me? I'm like, I go to church with you. I just so happened to go during that play. That play is when I got saved. It's when I gave my life to Jesus. Everything that I had done or was currently doing at the time, those people who were doing it in the play, they were dying and going to hell. And this wasn't like a little cheesy, like little cute play. This was like, you know, sound effects, smoke. Somebody was dressed up as the devil. It was demons snatching people out. Like people were dying, standing before Jesus, and Jesus was like, "Depart from me." And they was getting snatched and getting took down into the stage. Was the stage being they opened the stage, or was they just getting pulled off of the stage?
It was like an extension of the stage, and Ramon played the devil.
Yeah. And so shout out to Ramon, who's my neighbor at the moment. But yeah, it was a crazy play. And it was just like the Lord was like, you see this? This is your eternity if you don't give your life back to me. And from that moment, man, I got saved, and I've been walking with the Lord ever since. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Okay, so I made some notes. One, thank you for sharing. The first thing I thought of, I have a question, but I'll come back to the question in a second, is I'm listening and I'm like, what does this say to me as let me lean forward. What does this say to me as a believer? I need the mic just to follow me.
Just pull it. Just extend the mic. It extends. There you go.
Oh, I feel like I broke it.
No, that's just the cord. I could fix that later. But
okay.
Yeah, you could just pull that thing.
So as a believer, because we discussed this last episode, testimonies are meant both for believers and unbelievers. As somebody who can call themselves, by the grace of God, a believer, I would say what your story says to me is, Darry's somebody that if you meet him, you can see he's somebody that wears his scars. You can see the scars, but they're not ugly scars. They're beautiful scars, where you can almost see, like, in a way you can kind of see there are people in my life, there are a lot of people in my life like this, where you can see the person they could have been without Jesus. And one thing I love about Darry is, actually Darry reminds me a lot of my dad, in a sense of Darry. My dad has a lot of swagger. My dad is very cool. My dad is very much a family man. But at the same time, my dad has a great respect for God. And my dad is a man of God. He loves Jesus. But the first thing I'll say about my dad is he has a great respect for God. And Darry has a great respect for God. And I think something that your testimony really says to me is that look at the work Jesus can do if you give your life to him. Darry right now works to, just like the play helped save him from hell, he's snatching kids from the gates of hell, like every week. You know, we work for a mentorship program trying to get kids exposed to the gospel. Darry went from, you know, lust issues and all this stuff to right now being a wonderful father. I really love the way Darry does fatherhood. I learned a lot, because every time I started tripping about my one kid, and now, you know, I'm like, why don't you sleep? And then I see Darry with 5 kids, and Darry ain't flipping tables, and Darry ain't yelling all the time and stuff like that. Darry, so he, you know, honestly, like, as a Christian on the real, you learn so much from just watching people. If people realize, like, I learn so much more from observing people than what people say. Like, so observing Darry and how he parents, and observing Darry and how he's a husband, and observing Darry, and I can see, once I hear his testimony, oh, that's what God can do in somebody's life. Is I'll take it and I can like turn it completely around and have Darry, who was like this, now be so if I'm an unbeliever, I was speaking from the point of view of a believer, but if I'm an unbeliever, I'm like, yo, so I can be like that. I can have my own family. I can have like kids, and I can want to take care of them. I can be ministering the gospel to people. I get just a picture of the wonderful work God can do. Now one other thing. So two other observations. One, if I'm listening to this and I'm trying to figure out how to tell a testimony, you mentioned sin. So I imagine that if I'm an unbeliever and I'm hearing you tell a testimony, I would maybe I would stop and ask, yo, what's sin? You know, like, how would you answer that? Because I think sometimes Christians are afraid of being asked like deep theological questions.
Yeah. So I got two answers for what sin is, right? There's the super black and white biblical answer, which is, their sin is breaking God's laws, breaking God's commandments, right? Doing things that would offend God. And then in my own way of answering that, once you become born again and filled with the Holy Spirit, right? Sin is doing anything that goes against your conscience, like grieving that spirit that lives inside of you. And so some people believe that drinking is a sin, which drinking itself is not a sin. Getting drunk is a sin. But some people have that drinking is a sin, I'm not going to do it. And for some people, drinking is a sin because the Lord told them not to do it. He says, drinking is bad for you. That person, Ray, has the freedom to drink. He could drink. But Darry, I don't want you drinking. If I then go on and start drinking, I am now in sin.
Yeah.
Because now I know that the Lord told me that, and I'm going against my conscience, right? And the things that the Lord told me to do. For some people out there, we've been talking about dating in some other videos. The Lord called you to singleness, but you out here pursuing dating, you are now in sin. Because the Lord told you, hey, you are called to live a life, to be single and to serve me, but you're pursuing a relationship, you are now in sin. Or even if right now is not the time for you to date, but you're trying to date, you're in sin, right? You're not in the will of the Lord. And so that's what I would say is sin.
Okay.
Just so I clarify it.
All right, one other thing I observed, because what will most likely not happen is you won't have an audience with somebody for 30 minutes. Like somebody out on the street is not going to walk up. You're not going to walk up to them and say, I got a testimony I can tell you, and it's going to take like 20 to 30 minutes. And you tell them about your childhood to your adulthood.
It's my first time doing this in front of a camera, by the way, so it was a little awkward.
And you did it beautifully. But kind of going back to the points we were making in the last videos, testimonies, they can be short and sweet. It could be like, I was like this is how I am now. Do you find you're able to, depending upon the person, depending upon the situation, if you run up on somebody and that person is not really pulling their weight as a dad, and are you able to say like, well, I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you I was shacking up with my girl, we had a kid, and I was like this. I met Jesus, now I'm like that. Are you able to basically compartmentalize your testimony and dish it out depending upon situation, depending upon context?
Yeah, most of the conversations that I have as far as like giving my testimony, they all come from exactly that. Like I'm giving people bits of whatever it is. So going back, using the example that you gave when it comes to dads, there might be a guy who's struggling with being a dad or struggling in the area of fatherhood in some way, and I've been there, and so I'm able to relate, and I can share with him my experience, what I learned, like what I went through, what I learned from those things, and how God was using it, right? And even being able to explain to him and take him to scripture on like, man, this is what I was doing, but as I read scripture, I realized I was having these results, or I was going through these things because I was out of the will of God. and as a father, like I wasn't, providing a safe space or whatever it is. But being able to go back and share those things, being able to understand why I was in a certain situation at a certain time, is good. It's helpful.
Right.
So most of my conversations are usually short, and they're about one topic. I just shared the testimony about this podcast yesterday in like 10 minutes to a guy over the phone. He asked me, he's like, man, tell me the start of why did you start a YouTube channel? And so I was like, okay. I was like, I gave him some little stuff. He was like, nah, like what's the whole backstory, everything. And so I was able to do that in like 10 minutes. I gave him like every little detail, but yeah. And so that was a testimony of this, because I never wanted to do this. I didn't have plans to do a YouTube channel. This was a thus says the Lord moment. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm hearing this clearly, if this is the Lord. And so, yeah, I pushed back. I hesitated. I procrastinated. I did all those things. And then, it was confirmed for me. The Lord works with me in 3s and 4s in the way that he confirms things through me.
Like 4 confirmations or 3 confirmations?
Yeah. So, this is a special relationship that we have. But yeah, he confirmed it, 3 different people randomly. And so that's how I was like, okay, the Lord is telling me to do this, and then I need to start taking it serious and stop procrastinating. And so started trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this, and now we here.
So that was I can honestly, we'll be able to live out our testimonies as we keep doing episodes. So if you've been following the show for a little bit, I'm learning how to look at the camera when I speak. We show our scars here. If you've been following the show for a little bit, you probably heard like snippets of our story here and there, and that's the first time Darry actually broke down in detail, like who he was, how he came to Jesus. That was the last question before we get to me is, how did it feel telling your testimony like that? Did you feel exposed? Did you feel vulnerable? Did you feel silly?
Nah, we've shared different parts of my life on here, on camera. So it wasn't weird sharing it. It was just weird telling it from the beginning up to now. And so I was wrestling through my brain. Do I share certain details? Is that too much? Is this good to share? So that's why I was just processing information in my brain on exactly what I was going to share. Do I leave out certain things, or do I just give all of it? So I know we were trying to keep this in a certain amount of time, so I was like, okay, that's probably, I could X that out. I could X that out as I was talking. And so, yeah. But that was the only weird part about it, is that I didn't want to look weird on camera, because I know I make facial expressions and sometimes when I'm processing information. And I didn't want to start like stumbling over my words, but that was the only weird part. But I've shared some personal things from my marriage on this channel. Me and my wife are planning to do a podcast where we're very transparent and open about our past and areas of where we fall in and how God has restored us and stuff like that. So that's coming up hopefully before the summer is out. We'll record it. I don't know when we'll put it out, but we're working on that. So yeah, I'm an open book, man. I tell people sometimes I give out too much information. You know what I'm saying? My wife is real good with, like, she'll always start off with how she met her first time seeing me in school. And she always shares this story. And she's like, it's your testimony. She's like, I give people how I met you to how you are now. And so it's encouraging, but I'm always embarrassed by that moment. Because I remember that time so vividly. She's like, you seen me do that? So yeah, I'm like, can you start off with something else? Why I gotta be that? You seen me other times. But she like locks in on that one time that she seen me. And she's like, that dude's crazy. And that was her thought. And she didn't want to be around me. And so, but now we married, so now you got to be around me every day.
Amen. Legally.
But yeah, man. I did almost get emotional. But yeah, that was probably the second thing. And I just, you know how you try to suck the tear back in. Don't come out. But yeah, that was it. 'Cause there was some deeper things with my sister that I could get into, but I didn't. And yeah, so that's really it. But yeah, that play was crazy. I'm happy that Adam is here, because I was like, when he told me he was in a play, I was like, man, you don't want the little cheesy church play? Like, all right, I guess I'll go watch it. Like, I'm thinking it was just gonna be little kids singing or, you know, some real corny, but it was actually really good. Pastor Daniel is all about his plays, and yeah, that play rocked me. It was real, so it wasn't like some unbelievable scenes that was like, don't nobody do that, but it was just like almost every scene was a part of either I had done it or was doing it in that moment. And so yeah, my life was on full display in that play, and I was just like, wow. And I heard the Lord's verse, his words so clear, and it was just like, come back to me, or that is your fate. And I was just like, wow.